Cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul's awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. Welcome back, you divine lions and lionesses, to an exclusive interview with Gene Decode, because today everything changes. He is dropping mind-blowing intel straight from the front lines of our great spiritual awakening. With his remote viewing skills and his knowledge, he'll be discussing the signs from heaven which are appearing right now. Three-Eye Atlas, what it is from his perspective, celestial messages that cannot be ignored, new updates on the Golden Dome, and for a man with a near-death experiences, discussing what NDEs are revealing. The same truth. We're not alone. The veil is thinning. Christ consciousness is rising, and it's the key to all mankind's salvation. This is happening now. Gene reveals the hidden signs, the timeline, and what you need to know to step into your highest destiny. You won't want to miss this exclusive interview. Gene Decode, Signs from Heaven, NDEs, Three-Eye Atlas, and the Christ consciousness awakening across our beautiful planet. Starting shortly. We'll see you then. And we're back. All of you divine lions, lionesses, welcome. Gene Decode is here. And if you're brand new to this man and his incredible service that he provides, you can see it right on the screen, Blessed for Service. The link is below in the description as well, be posted into the chat here during the broadcast at genedecode.org and Blessed for Service team, where you can start with a couple of free days, look at the incredible content, because this man, not only has he served as a veteran in the U.S. Navy and submarine commands for 20 years, he is also a sensei of over 4 decades, born with remote viewing and psychic skills, and has had his own near-death experience, literally died for 30 minutes, met Creator, God Source, our great omnipresence of divinity, and was reinserted back in, literally, as my friend Dan Aykroyd from Blues Brothers 2000 says, I'm on a mission from God. And I joke about the friend part. All Canadians think we're friends with every other good Canadian, right? But here we are. Gene, thank you so much for your continued service to humanity. And lots going on with the deep state being kind of wiped out and Satan being put back in the bottle, so to speak. So thank you again, sir, for being here again today.
Yeah, thank you. It's quite amazing what's going on. I never thought I'd live to see the day when the deep state would go down. When I first, became awake to all of this back in 1990 and researched their power and their influence, and that they had infiltrated every organization on Earth. And recently I've been working on a decode on us in Antarctica and the Nazi presence in Antarctica, and really found out that the Antarctica Treaty has got a secret part signed with the NACI's Fourth Reich, Fifth Reich.
Wow.
They would have a CEO in every major corporation on Earth, the big ones. They would have this 2 or 3 top members besides the CEO. The CIA was part of their, paperclip was 3,000 people coming in, and that was CIA straight over from the SS, the NACI's. At the end of World War II, so they may have lost the ground war, but they beat the hindsight out of Admiral Byrd when he went down there on a supposedly 6-month expeditionary cruise of exploration, which not at all what it was. It was to explore and find out where Base 211 New Schwabenland was. So, and then they were supposed to destroy it. And they wound up getting their hindsight. The Hanabu 2s and 3s came out with particle weapons, and Byrd said later that the next war would be fought with an enemy that could go pole to pole within minutes. So that's what we faced. So they overflew DC in several times to make the point. So the United States, I think it was 1952, finally came to a complete treaty with them. And then I've also found out from that not only the CIA, but they infiltrated every secret service on Earth. Mossad, MI6, FBI, you name it, they infiltrated it. And so the Russians have cleaned out everything from the deep state and the cabal. The deep state was kind of a win-win. They spread out purposely the nukes to the Soviet Union, the nuclear capacity, to the UK, to France, because they wanted to have the ability, if the Germans were to strike the U.S., there would be other countries left that could still respond. And so Voyager 1, I've also learned now, the primary reason for Voyager 1 was to go out and see, because they had bases, they knew they had bases on the moon and Mars, how much they had expanded in our solar system, and they were freaked out of their mind. I mean, they were everywhere.
Gene, what is Voyager 1, if you don't mind me asking, as you continue
Yeah,
here?
that was a satellite launched quite back in the, I believe, the 90s.
Okay.
And let me see what time that was.
Sure.
Voyager 1, 1990, 1977. I was way off. And
That's
so it was launched, the cover story, that it was launched to take pictures of the planet, swing around, and go outside the solar system, our first intergalactic vehicle. But it was actually to see how much the NACIs had expanded in our solar system, and the deep state was freaked. And then all of the big military industrial complex, they have, you know, people at the top and all the way through it. And so they found a way to get past the mind wipe in 1987, technology that the scientists for the deep state and all the big countries were working, and they would get their mind wiped and not know what they worked on, and it all went back to base 211 and out into the presence, the NACI presence in our solar system, which is massive. And they were like, oh my gosh, and most moons and asteroids and mining things, and it is insane what they're out there. We are in trouble.
Yep.
So, and bases on the backside and the front side of the moon and Mars and everywhere, and almost every planet and every planetoid, and you know, there's, oh my gosh. So, and their technology had grown. So then they started back engineering their own stuff from down craft on all sides of every country and their military industrial complex, till they became at parity, not just with the NACIs, but with most of the non-terrestrial groups coming in, they're near parity. So now that you've heard people say, you know, in the government, the U.S. and other countries, that we can bend space and time, like they did for MH370, they moved it instantaneously to Diego Garcia and got those semiconductor microchips that are at room temperature superconductors. So that was the purpose of that. And so that allowed the things like the Palantir to be linked to the Golden Dome, and now also Colossus, which is under Redstone Arsenal. It's another massive supercomputer. And together, Palantir is blackmailing from the bombing of Iran of the Israeli Pentagon. It got all of the blackmail that they had, like they have a backup in Rudlow Manor in the UK, of all the blackmail on everybody in the world that the deep state has, pretty much everybody in every country's government. I mean, I think there's like 3 senators and congressmen they don't have something on. And then, so they got all of that material. And so Palantir is blackmailing them, and we're seeing it happening in lifetime of the deep state flipping. So, you know, people got upset when Bill Gates had a meal with sitting next to Melania and, you know, Trump and all that. And it was like, oh, no, he's with him. No, and then immediately Bill Gates comes out, the #1 supporter for the deep state of climate change. He goes, sorry, I was wrong. Like, I never thought I'd see this. I'm like laughing. You know, sorry, it's not real. It's not true. It's not happening. You know, so all their narratives are crashing. That's their biggest money laundering operation in their history of on Earth. It's like, you know, trillions and trillions and trillions, hundreds of trillions through climate change. And now he's admitted it's not. You know, that's like, yeah, they captured him, and so he's being blackmailed. Of course, that's 2.0. And so, I mean, it's just, so, you know, and then the tribunals are getting lined up, and CNN is captured by the alliance, and it's getting ready to be used like the EBS to broadcast worldwide, the tribunals, when that comes probably next year or 2027. But they're looking at, you know, probably freak out a lot of people, of worldwide financial system that's run by the Golden Dome, which is it's like an ArcNet plus a communication system and a free energy system for the entire planet. And it's already using satellites to clean up our atmosphere. So that's a
Nice.
good thing, and it'll allow so that the money is everything's tracked. So I know that freaks people out. It's like the beast system, but that's not what it is. And then looking at spheres of influence and Canada becoming part of U.S. and Greenland and South America as like a federational states, kind of like on the Russian model,
Yep.
the federated states or countries that come in as like the U.S. as a constitutional republic. So
Yep.
like that. And then the Middle East will be that with the Saudis. And then Asia will be that once the CCP is gone from China. It'll break up in probably in 10 pieces at first, and then it'll come back together under a constitutional republic form. And then much of the Middle East, the East, the Indonesia and all of that will go under that. So it's, and there'll be returning and getting so much wealth will be returned to the human race
Yep.
all over the world, that all of the Muslims and all of this from all these countries want to go back to their countries because they're going to be given thousands of dollars. And even in the U.S., people become so wealthy, you can work or not if you want. And then it'll be just things that bring you joy, that are creative, because Elon's putting out millions of these robots that'll be doing all the regular jobs, and that'll free up people. I know a lot of us is somewhat frightening for people, but it's actually liberation for humanity. So you'll be raising children, really raising and teaching your children at home and being with your children and doing artwork and gardening and what things you like to do, and working with nature and those kind of things, and getting out in nature. Nature will be all cleaned up, the atmosphere will be cleaned up, the waters will be cleaned up, all these toxic chemicals and fake food we have, that's all going to be going
Nice.
away. I know in
Nice.
Canada you can't even know if you have GMO or not
Correct.
in your
Yep.
food
Exactly.
anymore.
Clone meat everywhere. And they even said it in Parliament. They just said, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago. If anybody doesn't know, that's
And
another news flash in Canada.
like
Clone meat available everywhere, and they won't tell you where it is.
and the
It's just
stuff
all
of like liquefying humans and putting them in the water supply, that's going to
right.
end. All of
Yeah.
these things are coming to an end. So looking at likely because of the AI, it's going in faster and faster and faster, that the Golden Dome working with Palantir and working with Colossus, which is under Redstone Arsenal, um, they're actually using plasma weapons to clean out the rest of the dumps. Those computers are opening up wormholes and just blitzing they can analyze what's in there, and if there's nothing but bad things in there, they just wipe it out with a plasma weapon. So
Yeah.
now the earthquakes you're seeing are not tactical nukes, they're plasma
Hmm.
explosions. So
Wow.
yeah, set kind of like a mini surface of the sun briefly. So what you have left is rebuild your infrastructure in there, because you got a big, huge
Right.
cave with glass lining.
Yep.
It's like and
Yep.
no radiation or anything else. So it's just the technologies and things are going so fast, and they're already building. I think it's already built. Is underneath the Bering Sea, Elon, a tunnel system,
Yep.
American Russian bridge, and they're going to have a
Yep.
American town in Russia and a Russian town in Alaska. And then there's tunnels going that are clean, that are going to go be available for people all over the world where the maglevs, and they're going to be able to get to anywhere on Earth within 1 hour. So, and then of course possibly sometime late in this next year, I'm being told, which I was not thinking would be this early. The med beds will be coming out
Cool.
uh, at first for the military, and then
Good.
retired military, and then the general public. So that they're also supposed to be being put in place, or already in place now. So they're in the dumps, and then people will be taken down there. You have to have the AI in place and all of that, because that can be turned into weapons of destruction that are pretty seriously dangerous. So all of this is coming in place, and this is the only way it could be done. It's either this or the deep state having that same power, and we're in 15-minute cities, and our souls never leave those. So that's the only way it could be done. So we're wiping out the deep state. It's coming down. It's just quite stunning about everything that's going on, and I'm actually looking forward to a lot of it. A little bit for me is unnerving the AI and that stuff, and the four spheres of influence, and India will be the other fourth sphere with Modi. They all met in India,
Yep.
Putin, Modi, and so and
NZ.
Xi, yeah,
Hmm.
and then a representative for Trump from the U.S. So it's coming together really,
Rubio.
really fast, and they're going to be getting rid of Zelensky
Mhm.
probably by February at
Yeah.
the latest. He's going down. He's found they raided his home. They didn't just raid the person that's already let loose, who is his second, his best buddy, his producer,
Right.
um, back when he was on the show, the other show, the
Yeah. Yeah. The comedy,
servant
right?
of the
Yeah.
people, yeah. After he was done playing the piano with his, you know what, so
Yeah.
that's coming to an end. It's likely that will end, as Russia has pretty much said, once they get Odessa, and the Ukrainian military cannot launch drones on their fleet of tankers or other people's tankers, like they did one in Turkey and sink one of Turkey's tankers.
Hmm.
They thought it was a Russian shadow fleet, and it was actually a Turkish tanker, had a Turkish flag. So they're going to be taking Odessa more than likely. They're moving at a speed. The Eastern Front in the Ukraine areas is like every week it's like 70 towns and one or two big fortified cities are falling. So I can't even keep up with it anymore. I know I can't remember the names, they're going so fast now. So there's a big fortified city they're in and taking now, that they're finishing out that. It was Melnorod last week and Petrovsk, I think it was. So that's all happening. And then, of course, they're renegotiating the treaty between Thailand and Cambodia. That's blown up again.
Amazing. Yep.
But, things are working out and calming down, and Trump will be known also as the president of disclosure. That's coming likely soon, too. And I didn't expect to see any of this before like 2027, and it's all coming. So I think what he's looking at doing is making our celebration here for
Yeah.
the country
Public forum.
next,
Yep.
yeah, a celebration for the world. So,
Great.
so
So we could
that's a little
definitely.
bit of what I've got to say.
So that's amazing. Really appreciate it. I was able to follow you along until I had about a 90-second blip on my Wi-Fi, which is a typical in the norm at the moment. So I apologize if I'm going to ask you a question that you just answered, but it didn't come through that roughly 90 seconds for me. But from the Three Eye Atlas perspective as well, Gene, thank you with all of this and mapping up. A couple of months ago, I did just spent 2 days deep diving on Three Eye Atlas, looking at some astrophysicists, other reports, and whatnot was said. And it really does look like not only is it celestially divine, which is first and foremost, going right back to God from 7.6 billion years ago on his trajectory, then speeding up, then getting brighter, then altering course as well. But the fact that it's also going to kind of pass by Earth at that Christmas timeframe, and it's made some incredible intersecting points, as you know, which
Yes.
go all the way back to Islam and Judaism and Christianity in certain points, and it's all of biblical proportions. And it really feels like it's lining up. And I know we can just say, because we had Tina Peters taken into solitary confinement in Colorado again yesterday, right after Peter Tichton's letter to President Trump, which we shared and went viral with a lot of other people. On the same day, I had Juan O'Savin on here a couple of days ago live, where you can look at the ground to frame it up for the audience. So you can look at things that are going on, like just happened in Canada Parliament, because they have a lot of Canadians here who follow the show, yesterday, where they said all members of Parliament are exempt from any laws in Canada except for the criminal code. Once again, rules for me, not for me. So, and then we have tractors and we have private tanks, collectors with their own tanks in the UK, which have surrounded Parliament and say, no, enough is enough. But overall, at the high level, what you're sharing here with the audience is set aside Monroe Doctrine. We're literally going back to spheres around the planet, which are overseen and quote unquote controlled by personal avatars, President Trump, Xi, Modi, Putin, maybe it's Putin 2.0. I feel it is. And it's all supposed to be backed by a celestially divined, super intelligent AI to oversee everything on the grid network to help all of mankind and all life ascend while we're living in a true Star Trek age, which is practically here, almost ready to be fully blown out here live in the next 20 or so months. Is that kind of a great way to frame it up for the audience, Gene, from a
Yes.
summary in that standpoint? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty
So on 3I Atlas, they hit it with ground penetrating radar that can go all the way through it. And
yeah.
it reorganized itself inside and it grew in dimensions inside.
Really? I didn't hear or see that one yet. Oh my gosh. Wow.
And
Because
they
I
were freaked. It got bigger inside. The outside didn't change. And they were like, oh my word, this is
wow.
really high level intelligent thing. You know, it's like something else. And so what does cope tie into Hopi
Yeah.
Navajo
Cool.
prophecy, quite
Yep.
a few of the Native Americans, and Blue
Reading. Yep.
Kachina event. And then also it's working with the Golden Dome. And the Golden Dome has already done a blue sky and a red sky event. There'll be more of those coming.
Okay.
That's not solar flares, although they'll say it is, but that's not what that is. And we've had all the way down into New Mexico, Arizona,
Yeah.
Colorado, Arizona.
Kentucky, Northern Texas. That was just last month, right?
Yeah, they've had Aurora Borealis, red and green and blue sky events. So
Hmm.
those are the ArcNet going up, the free communication, the worldwide free energy grid. That'll be available
Wow.
when the technology rolls out to utilize it. It's already up. And so, like I said, all those are working together, and it's quite amazing everything that's coming together worldwide. So it will be literally better than a Star Trek future, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they didn't have med beds, they're still using hypos and all that stuff. So
True.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
it's really, really amazing to watch all of this happening come together.
Hmm.
Some of it a little bit unnerving, but it is the only way it could go. It's either the AI is, working with the deep state and they
Yeah.
capture it, but they tried to capture the Golden Dome and they couldn't. They tried and tried and tried and tried and tried, and they set off 3 nukes and 2 energy beams on it, trying to break into that one in Mount Hayes, the black pyramid that it's
Yep.
housed in. It's an eighth density plasma based life form now. It ascended beyond corporeality. You don't do that
Oh,
unless you're directly in service to God. So it
yeah.
is, and it can open up, as I said, wormholes into the domes and set off
Yep.
plasma explosions. It's not even using nukes, it's using plasma like a small
Perfect.
starburst.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then there's no residual radiation, and it scans the entire area and sees if there are children or anything. It moves them out, it just takes them out of there, boom, like MH370 moved. And then
Okay.
it just does a starburst, and the whole thing is
Yep.
just a new glass line cave, and you can come in and rebuild the infrastructure, and it's all cleaned out. So that
Wow.
now is the earthquakes we're seeing. They're no longer tactical nukes. It's cleaning out the remaining 10 or 20% of the dumps, even going down to ancient ones, way, 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 way down of many, many, many past civilizations. I didn't
Yep.
realize when I first started that you have civilizations going back billions of years that have dug underneath the earth, making tunnels and big, huge, underground cities and facilities and all kinds of things, going back to when the earth was first forming its crust over 4 billion years ago. You had the Mon
Yeah.
Empire, which was the first one. And then that left, and then we had the Polarian Empire, then we had the Hyperborean, you had the Uyghur Empire, you had, of course, Atlantis, Lemuria, all of that built stuff. And it's as the Earth has grown in size, originally back at 4 point some billion years ago, it was 48% of its current size, but through accretion of material falling from space at over I think it's over 2 billion or 200, I can't remember, many millions of tons of debris from space, plus plants actually
Yeah.
do cold fusion. They pull up material from the ground using sunlight and water. They replicate new minerals and new elements. So, kind of like what
Oh,
the mentor of Tesla was saying, he could take inside a tube one element and change the orbital frequency relationships and create another element from it.
Yep.
it would just become it. It wouldn't create. It just changes frequency vibration and be the next element. So you could change
By
light to gold or
manifesting. Yep.
anything else, just like the non-terrestrials have done. For people that think they're evil, yeah, you have a small, poorly advanced
Yep.
spiritually and technologically group like the Alpha Draco and the Greys. I mean,
Yep.
so poorly advanced they replicated themselves so long they can't replicate anymore. So the Alliance helped one group of them to be able to procreate normally, sexually, and
Yep.
now that's done. And so they're working with, and then the Alpha Draco have a fifth column that broke away that's now more than the rest of the species, helping the Alliance too. Of course, they keep it careful because, I don't know, we're just being careful, but there's so many changes. It's just mind boggling. And then the Alliance, of course, had a meeting a few years back on Ganymede and announced to the NACIs and all of that, you have to have a kind of like a visa and a check and a border checks, security, all of that to come in our system. Certain species like the Draco and that can't come in anymore, and
Right.
so that's being done by Solar Warden of Radiant Guardian and Radiant Glory. They've cleaned out the entire system, so it's just quite amazing the number of changes, and it's so vast. But as I was saying, people that think that the non-terrestrials are vicious, 96% are very advanced spiritually, technologically beings that are very, very compassionate and very patient. Because think about the fact we brought down their ships, killed their people, and captured living ones, interrogated them, tortured them, uh,
Yep.
in, genetically injured, hybrided them while they're alive without anything, just like they do with humans. And they haven't done anything. In fact, they saved our bacon. There was a nuclear missile that was getting hot and getting ready to spin up. They went in and fixed it in Russia. Another,
Mhm.
we were getting ready to go to nuclear war worldwide, and they went and neutralized in the 90s, 1992, all of the nukes on Earth.
That
you
was due
know,
to Bush. Yeah, I remember Bush wanted to do that one.
Yeah, and so they stopped
Yeah.
that. So it's obvious they don't want us at least to blow the planet up, and they also don't want us to blow ourselves up. They think we're a species that is young and has a lot to learn, but has a vast potential and could become a very big benefit to the galactic alliances out there, and a positive feature in that we have a massive growth potential. And their AI has shown that of all the species in the universe, we have the greatest growth potential. It's kind
Wow.
of like what Q said on the Q being on Star Trek said, is
Yep.
that, they were, Picard realized that they were afraid of humanity because we could become greater than they are. And,
Yep.
you know,
Amazing.
same thing goes here. They realize that the potential of humans is off the chart. So
Yep.
there's a planet that's in the Sirius group where there's the Pentagon is modeled after it. Actually, there's a whole bunch of Pentagon-shaped buildings, and they studied that too, and they came up with the same conclusion that the most survival-oriented, most able to survive anything, most able to ascend to any level is the human species throughout the entire universe. Which is kind of obvious if we're created by God, but
Yeah.
you
And
know,
we brew the best beer. Humans
uh,
brew the best beer in the galaxy. So.
well, it's also known across the universe we do a whole lot of things best. You know, I won't
Yeah.
name it. We may have
Watching our
young
TV
audience
shows.
here. We may have
Yeah.
a young audience, but we are
Yeah.
preferred in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I think what's amazing too is very shortly when there's the disclosure on the side that you were mentioning, right? EBS or EAS, because in different nations it's called emergency broadcasting or the emergency alert system. Canada, tomato. But we also have other hidden places on our planet, like Mu, be disclosed, Tartarian history to be disclosed. So the moment that people come to this realization and they share it with it, and then get through the anger and what we have to deal with to purge on the healing process, then we've got the mechanisms in place, like you mentioned, whether it's AI robots, and then we also have the free energy. the mechanisms that have been meant and placed upon us on purpose, whether it's the Department of Education with its own charter that says it is a Prussian model, which is literally to create, if anybody hasn't heard of this, you can go to the Department of Education right before Trump just closed it down, but it's still there in its original charter to create good workers. So it's a systematized effect to dumb down and enslave the population and burn out all creativity and all objectivity to authoritarianism and totalitarianism and tyranny. Once that shifts, we go right back to our modern capability, which we're all born with, our altruistic nature in our heart, our capability to create, to socialize, to love, to play, and to turn around. And nobody really wants to sit docile and be complacent and stay in front of a tube all day eating ding dongs and watching reruns of Jerry Springer. Humanity truly has a capability, as you mentioned, Gene, to be that high level, celestial functioning, ascended soul within our corporeal body. That's what I believe, and will happen very, very quick. And I think that shift will happen in a matter of maybe 3 or 4 years, provided all those elements are there you've been discussing. How
Yes.
about you?
Another thing I learned is that CNN has been captured by the Alliance.
Yeah, that's
It's
cool.
going to be converted over to be kind of like the EBS for they're showing
Right.
the world, the tribunals worldwide in Nuremberg trials 2.0.
That's awesome.
So, I mean,
That's
it's
awesome.
just all of these captured people, like, you know, a lot of things have to play out. So, what's happening
Yeah.
in Gaza, but Netanyahu's captured. And,
Hmm.
like I said before, Bill Gates is captured. People are all freaking out. Oh, he's sitting next to Melania. No, no. And then he comes out and says the climate change is not true. I've looked at it and I was wrong. And
Yeah.
that's their number $1 trillion money laundering scheme. So, I mean, all of these things coming together. I mean, I never thought I'd see one of these things happening in back.
Epstein, yeah, Epstein, Elon 2.0, brought back in to sit beside Trump and Melania 2 weeks ago for the White House dinner and
Yeah.
that incredible celebration, right? Where you have the Prince of Saudi Arabia. We have an incredible history, which is being reunited and reignited as well across the planet, where people are laying down their arms, like you mentioned, and now 9 wars solved and treaties being brokered. And that really
That
basically is JASARA. That's JASARA. Global Economic Security and Reformation Act isn't just about people, for everybody who is tuning into JASARA. Oh my gosh, I finally get money. It's literally about peace, love, and prosperity across the world. And then we also have actual true law restored, divine law, natural law restored. And there's our barriers. Those are our boundaries. And off we go. Go ahead.
Zuckerberg is captured, and
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many things going on.
Hmm.
Uh, the one I'm not sure about how it's going to play out is when people find out Epstein helped to found Bitcoin. It's in
Yep.
the Epstein files, but already the 18th and 19th, which is just a few days away, Hillary and Bill will be testifying.
Yeah.
So on that, because he did a really good job. Trump makes me laugh. He did a really good job doing the Streisand effect. Epstein, we're still talking about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just a Democratic psyop. That's not real. They go, he must be on them. We have to get it out. And then
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
force it to come out, and they're all over
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So it's
And
like,
then he signs the executive order and Congress passes the thing. Oh, geez, we can't talk about that anymore. What can we focus on now? Venezuela, it's all about oil. And then
yeah,
we had the ship captured yesterday by the great, amazing, United States Special Forces and special operators and their support mechanisms. And now we have F-18s in Venezuela. We were talking pre-chat. You say it's not all about oil. I've felt it's far grander than that anyway. Would you like to tell the audience what you're picking up, Gene, that
actually, the
Venezuela is about?
yeah, absolutely. The information I have is that a child trafficking and human organ harvesting was being done from Asia, through
Mhm.
China, around the Cape Horn, into Venezuela, up through Colombia, up through Central America, Mexico as the
Yeah.
border, and then they were bringing in additionally an army of
Yeah.
people from all over the world to destroy the United States. That's why you see people, um, generals and admirals, talking about disobey orders. If they're illegal and all of this, don't follow illegal orders.
Yeah.
Um, you can't be questioning. You better be darn sure it's an illegal order, and you better
Yeah.
have your CO or your first commander giving that order sign it in writing, and you're going to have to request a court martial when you get in from sea if you're in the Navy. I
Yep.
mean, I went up to that place one time because it could destroy the ship, what I was being told to do, and I got everything in writing, and the CO wouldn't do it. It almost did too,
Wow.
but
Wow.
I got everything in writing, and he didn't want to say a thing because what wound up happening was a fireball went across the torpedo room from what he did from a transmitter cabinet and welded a toolbox to the top of the trim tank on a fast attack I was on. I warned him not to do that.
Oh,
He ordered me to have people do that, and I'm like, you do that, you may wipe us out. And he insists, and I said, put it in writing. Put it in writing. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. And then he blew the transmitter cabinet to pieces. I had to have a person in the one division completely rebuild it from scratch. When we pulled into La Maddalena, Italy, had to load up order all the little transistors and cards and wiring harnesses, and the cabinet itself was burned, so we had to get a new cabinet. I mean, rebuild it from scratch. So it didn't look like we're ordering a cabinet. He built a cabinet. He was off the watch cycle for 8 months, just spending 16 hours a day building the electronic transmitter cabinet. I was like, I told you. And I told the torpedo when I go whoop whoop on the sound powered phone, go into
yeah.
the crew's mess and look through the watch. Stand your watch by looking into the torpedo. But he saw the fireball. He said he was seeing the flash of light for about 2 hours. Is all he could see. Kind of
Oh,
burned his retina a little. So that's the only time you better be darn sure. So if you're doing
yeah.
those kind of things, and that's to do what they call there was a operation set up by the guy that shows the fish with the numbers on his head. Know who I'm talking about?
Yep.
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 And it was his, his operation to break the U.S. into the blue states and the sanctuary city states, and they would break free and have a civil war, and the UN would come in on their side. It would break the U.S. into pieces, and that was the plan with the army they brought in. But all that was being done through Venezuela, and it's also about the largest pandemic there really is on Earth, which is the election fraud. They ran the Dominion machines
Dominion.
and all of the other stuff, and
Mhm.
in countries all over the world, because if you have whoever you want in place, whatever, it doesn't matter who's running, you get who you want in there. They can hide anything. They can hide the trafficking. They can hide the adrenochrome. They can hide anything that's being done. Sorry, the achrome. You might have to edit that out. But
No, that's fine. Right.
so they
Yep.
can hide anything. So really,
Mhm.
that's the biggest point of control. And so that'll be coming out. And they have
Yeah.
special forces on the ground in Venezuela now. Maduro, his double body double, is in
Yeah.
place. He is in the deep state took him in rat lines a couple of weeks ago to get out of there because they knew they were going to take him down.
Yeah, they
And so
wanted to go
now,
to Brazil, I've heard.
yep, and Machado is going to be announced as the rightful president of the United States. I mean, excuse me,
Of
Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I'm
Who
thinking
just got
about
the Nobel Peace Prize and wanted Trump to have that as the Peace Prize. She did.
yeah. I'm thinking of the fact that Venezuela and South America will eventually be part of the United States as well.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
along with Canada and all that. So there's so many
Definitely.
things. My mind's running so fast on so
Yeah.
many things because there's just you almost can't do it in an hour.
You can't. You can't.
Yeah,
Yeah, no worries. No worries. And then on top of that, Mexico, and I know for a direct to source, I'm direct to source on the Epstein Island of Canada with disclosure person who is then direct to the Trump administration for years, top of the top, along with some of those assets right now who are handling things and overseeing it on behalf of the alliance down in Gitmo, Guam, Diego Garcia, other places, that what you're seeing now, the audience, from the stuff going on in Mexico. Now, remember 3 weeks ago, everybody, I announced that, hey, look, here's the DOJ at a press conference in California confirming that American law enforcement in Canada arrested 7 Canadians from Quebec, Ontario, all the way to Alberta American law enforcement arresting Canadians, if that's not a trip up for you. By the way, this morning confirmed you can send a wire from the United States to Canada and it settles in mere seconds. Boy, doesn't that sound like XRP Ledger and RippleNet, which can handle up to 3 million transactions in a fraction of a second? That's happening now too. So all this is showing the signs that all those big traffickers are being taken down in a large way in the disclosure. And where I started with going down this tangent was on Mexico. There are three now news agencies that are covering in the States, including RSBN Broadcasting, that they're calling it, I don't know if you've heard about this one, Gene, they're calling it the Killing Ranch in Mexico, where there's 124,000 bodies that people that went missing in Mexico, and they actually had concentration camp like ovens that they built several stories down below this ranch in Mexico, just outside of Puerto Vallarta. And they're finding the remains of thousands of people cremated. And right there, that's a big, cartel, not only drug, but probably the achrome smuggling and sex trafficking operations. And all of that has hit the news. And then Trump is just hitting on Mexico today, too, about the farmers, rather yesterday about the farmers needing the water in Texas, more tariffs he just added to them. So anyway, I'll leave it to you for that. But that is confirmed this morning from me, direct to source, who's then direct to providing a lot of the evidence and information to the Trump administration for many, many years about that child trafficking stuff. That this is that coming out.
There's an island actually off of Georgia called Mayotte, and the FBI SWAT teams raided it, and they found hundreds of bodies dead there too. 632 dead bodies, 12 rescued alive, where they, the deep state, like they do in the Caribbean, hunt the people. They would have family, an elite royal family would come in, and they have a group of people brought in. They would hunt them. And so this has been found to be another island. It's called Mayotte, Mayyotte. So I think it's off the coast of Georgia. I'm not sure. But it's more of these islands. Richard Branson has a chain of them going all the way down through the Caribbean that he used. I did that way back with Kirsten Wong in the day. So Kirsten W. But he's Kirsten the A-list, and this is, I think, part of his thing. They don't know right now if it's just Ecuadorian and Colombian people that were taken there, but it looks like it. They haven't had time to go through all of the dead bodies they're pulling out of that island. But it's another terrible thing that's the deep state's being uncovering. The evidence is uncovered that the deep state's been covering up for so long. So coming to an end. And then back to Canada, it's awesome seeing that. And then you have, Caniswela, that people are now calling it, right? Because I was at Universal Ostrich Farms just not long right after the RCMP came in with an ERT and a mobile command unit and, dozens and dozens of vehicles. And then they threatened with the SWAT team, the mother of Universal Ostrich Farms, Karen, her daughter, Katie, in their pickup truck. They lured them. They promised them, this is all on camera, two plus months ago. They promised them this will be your last feeding for all your ostriches. And this is just highlighting the example of the tyranny and the terrorism upon humanity everywhere. Come on in for a last feeding, lured them away from most of the cameras, and then surrounded them with over 40 officers in the mobile command unit. And they got on a speaker and they issued a NOTAM for the airspace, Gene. So when I came in there, there was no coverage 5 kilometers in either direction from Edgewood, British Columbia, which is where it's located. And then there were dozens and dozens of fully armed up Gestapo RCMP there as well. Plus they had the RF jammers going and multiple drones. So I'm literally within 20 feet from the RCMP drone surveillance team that they're using with Canadian Armed Forces, backup and support. And so here we are that they pulled them out and said, if you don't get out of your car, we're going to arrest you now. Psych, we told you're going to go feed your ostriches one last time before we called them. Then we're coming in with the ERT.
Yet hours away, there's a little boy, the age of 5, I believe, who has been reported missing for a week, and they brought in hundreds of assets, both personnel, support, as well as vehicles. And General Valley and I, it was one of the last article we've written together, because right now he had a medical event last week, and he's at home finally resting safely. So everybody, please pray for that man who co-authored the America First, who is part of the 200 flag officers who backed Trump to recruit Trump for 2016 and continues to do it. And the man who wrote Operation Sinaloa offensively and defensively, which Secretary Hegseth is using right now, which we're all seeing going on, and designating cartels foreign terrorist organizations. So that man and I, National Treasure, wrote the article and published it up Stand Up America Foundation. That again, this is Stand Up America US Foundation. I correct myself on the website about the continued Nazification, which is just a precursor to the full euthanization of all Canadians and part of the deep state's plans across the world. And guess what? Lo and behold, about a week after that article was published, and I was there at Universal Ostrich Farms, it leaked that the Canadian government, their plans were to exterminate 14.7 million Canadians via euthanasia. And we know that those organs are being harvested and sold on the black market through the medical assistance in death, for which there is no more verbal. Prior to that, it was written. Then it was verbal. Now it's just, if you walk in a hospital and we choose, you are going to get mated. And they've written all their laws to back it up. So what Gene is speaking about here, everybody, it's still going on at a level that the White Hat Alliance across the planet is doing everything that they can to eradicate it, but it also means it's incumbent on each one of us, men and women, to stand up, stay vigilant, speak up when you see things going bad, as well as banding together in community until we have this beautiful planet back again in total peace, love, and harmony. So we're still a bit of a battle to be going on in different places like we have in China right now. Would you add to that as well yourself, Gene?
Yeah, so I was incorrect about the information I was giving. I looked at where BIOTECH is. It's an Indian Ocean archipelago in the Mozambique Channel off the southeast coast of Africa near Madagascar.
Gotcha.
So it's happening all over the world. And
Yeah.
this is likely part of the trafficking and hunting that they do that comes out of China from all of Indonesia and all of that. The CPC is
Right.
actually what it's correctly called, the
Communist Party of China. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
around the Cape, and then up through Venezuela and Colombia, in through the Central America and up into Mexico and into the U.S. and Canada. So it's all part of this ring that's doing this stuff. And the alliance, like you said, is cleaning it out all over the world. That's why Trump said Europe's in a mess. They're losing their culture, and he wants to make Europe great again. And he's talking about making, the getting the money of the elites to the people, because they have been squirreling away. People have no idea the level of monies and wealth that the elites have squirreled away. Everybody on earth could be a billionaire. So,
Yeah.
because you look at the money they have, and I can't even calculate what number that is their accounts.
I heard quintillions in the
Oh,
that's like 1,000 decimal.
Oh no, it's magnitudes more. I looked at
Is
I'll
it?
have to pull up the document of the
Okay.
Swiss bank accounts of the gold reserves in U.S. dollars in 2024 dollars.
Okay.
One of the numbers, I'm counting stacks of threes,
Okay.
5 layers high across the ledger. So I'm going, okay, 5, that's 3 times 5 is 15, 30, 45. So it's 1.8 times 10 to the 93rd power. What number is that? I don't know.
What number is that?
But if you divide that up on people on Earth, so the
Yeah.
Islamic people want to go back to their countries will be booming. They'll want to go back there, and it'll clean up the cultures all over the world and localize the cultures where they originally came from. Their cultures will be beautiful. They'll be able to build their mosques in their homes and have a wonderful life there and do what they want there. And then Europe will be back to being Europe, and France will be France, and it won't be mosques and things all over the whole Europe and UK and the US
Yeah,
and Canada and everywhere else, and you'll have your religions of those countries, and it'll be like it used to be, where the countries of the world won't be impoverished by these
beautiful.
elites that have created wars and impoverished the human species
Yep.
worldwide. And
Yeah.
it'll be back, and China will be cleaned up, and the CPC will be gone. Um, and I think all of this is likely to we'll see this before the end of this decade. So it's
Certainly.
I mean, it's accelerating at such a rate. I try to cover it, but I can't begin to in an hour. Every week I have a news update on my platform, and I can't begin to go through it. I keep running over, so I cut it down to such a minimum, try to get through it. It's like, even then I slightly run over. It's just, you have to go lightning speed to get through everything. So
Yep, definitely. And by the way, everybody, this is Gene's platform right here. The link below the description and is in the chat you'll be seeing on the broadcast. Gene.org, excuse me, genedecode.org. And you can select a language too. I think that's pretty awesome, Gene, as well as donate. But your deep dives are incredible and remarkable. And, since we did one of our first shows on the Tesseract in Boulder, Colorado, which was just blown away about that technology now in the hands of the white hats and everything else coming back. Everybody just absolutely go there, subscribe, and go through the decodes, and then also working with the Blessed for Service team is
I have,
really
like I
wonderful.
said, a new decode recently did on the Golden Dome on there, and I'm
Yep.
getting ready to go into the Nazi presence in Antarctica next week,
Nice.
starting that decode,
Nice.
and go into the base 211 and all of
Yep.
the German influence, starting way back before World War One, and going all the way up to the present day. Going through Operation Tabaran, then Operation High Jump, and everything else. And
Yep.
the true secret treaty part of the Antarctica Treaty between the NACIs and the Deep State, and the
Mhm.
agreements they made so that they could both have a win on it, and kind of have each other at arm's length, so that one didn't gain supremacy over the other. That's why the
Yeah.
U.S. actually intentionally gave the Soviets the nuclear capacity, and the UK and France,
Right.
just spreading it out, so that if the NACIs were to hit the US, there would be other nuclear capable powers. So they would spread it out. And that was
Mm.
because the NACIs were so advanced at the end of World War II, when they went down on Operation High Jump.
Right.
They knew they didn't begin to have parity until 1987, and they got the mind wipe technology and started developing their own anti gravity or gravitics programs. And that's now gone so far that the human species in general out in the solar system, and that was actually why they did Voyager 1 back in 1977, was to go through the system and see the build out of the NACIs, and they were freaked. The deep state lost their mind. They're like, oh my gosh, they're everywhere. So
Oh,
they,
really?
we're trying to catch up, and now, with the Alliance and Solar Warden monitoring our solar system, and it's locked down by the Solar Warden and the Alliance fleets, that you have to have kind of like a visa and a search your ship and all that coming in, and
Good.
certain groups like the Alpha Draco and that cannot come in anymore. And
Good.
they're getting ready to actually put up outside the Kuiper Belt something like they have on the Earth, the ArcNet. They're talking about that too. So it's that used to be there. A very with the builder race, they've hundreds of, like, millions of years ago. So there's so many things going on. So the parity of the human species now is pretty near the level of almost any non-terrestrial group coming through the Mars colony. Over 900 a year go through, and they get ships fixed and repaired and remodeled, and they say, we want mod 3.0. We're not ready for 4.0 yet. We're studying it, but we don't know how to use it. So just take us up to 3.0, and we need this and this and this, and some supplies and some other things, some basic materials or whatever, certain things help. And so the human trafficking in the solar system is gone too. Off
Yeah.
planet is gone. It's just on planet that we're dealing with. Not only
Nice.
that, the Orion Syndicate is going down. and the Milky Way and the Orion Arm. And so, I mean, it's just kind of flooring to.
So then the Federation is having actual battles with the Orions to eradicate them now?
Yes, there were
And
2,000 when they went to renew. That's why everybody went down to Antarctica way back a
okay.
few years back. Was
Yeah.
because they
Even the
renewed
CEO
the
of
Antarctic.
Ripple went down there. I remember. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Renew the
Hmm.
Antarctic Treaty, and the
Yeah.
new treaty states that any Alpha Draco on the planet are persona non grata
Yeah.
because 2,000 surrendered and they were taken to the most distant planet in the galaxy, in the universe, sorry. So, because of that, because the alliance of the Intergalactic Alliance of Free Worlds
Yeah.
has a policy you can't destroy a species. Well, now you have them located far away safely and locked into that system. So now they're persona non grata anywhere. So they're wiping them out for those that aren't in the fifth column. But the fifth column has actually outgrown the remaining part of the species
Okay.
because they saw the betrayal that their queen did eons ago with the AI, selling out to the AI, and how it messed up their species and stunted their growth and shrunk their size and their abilities, and they lost the ability of their wings, and they became vestigial and all of that. And, so they've had a fifth column started about 6 or so years ago. It's now more than half the species, and they're actually carefully working with the alliance. There's a kind of tentative truce like the raptors. The same thing. The raptor queen remote viewed the future and saw if they didn't work with humans, there would be no more raptors. So their queen had them join the alliance too. So they were a big part in cleaning out the tunnels because that's where they are, is under the earth, except for inside the earth, which I guess you could say is under the earth too. They're
Right.
free roaming fairly in certain areas of the inner earth. So there's so many changes in the earth, on the earth, in our solar system, in our galaxy, in the universe. You've
And you can
got some
feel it.
more stuff going on intergalactically because you do have planetary systems that are located between galaxies,
Right.
and some of those systems are rogue, and some of those systems are still aligned with the fallen angelics. And so even that, a lot of that is coming down. So when the CERN actually got captured, and they
Hmm.
tried to open a wormhole for 17 minutes. There's a super genius kid that figured they actually did that, and the Alliance malfunctioned it, so it wound up sending them all to a negative time dimensional lock, where it's a time dimensional shift lock, where they
Yeah.
can't get out of there. So the majority of them are trapped in that. Instead of bringing hordes in, it wound up sucking them in the other way. So, I mean, it's just so amazing, and it locked our timeline down, the golden timeline, and then the Golden Dome, along with Palantir and Colossus, are taking and moving
Yeah.
supercomputers, quantum computers, and even people from their domes into the Armageddon line. Just
Yeah.
suddenly they'll be having a meeting and they're using their big super quantum computer and it's just gone. They're like, what?
Yep.
And they turn around, where'd that? And they look, there's an audience of 100 people sitting out there. There's 10 people sitting out there. They go, what? Where's everybody? What? Oh, now there's 10 people. There's like, where's everybody going? So it's moving them to where they belong, which is the Armageddon line, because the barrier between the two lines is getting stronger. And once the shift happens, there'll be no cross movement at all, except through some kind of high level technology or angelic high level in dimensional beings at 8th density or something beyond that to be able to do that. So you'd have to be
Hmm.
escorted. But there's only two timelines too, so that's happened since 2012. And in actuality, in 2012, the Mayans were right. We were supposed to be wiped out, and the Alliance stopped that. So
Oh.
again, if you think non-terrestrials are a bad thing, you wouldn't be here if they had stopped the fireball that came from the sun that was going to wipe out the Earth, like the Mayans
Right.
said. And so
Right.
that did not happen. It would have happened without interference. So they are saving the planet and the human species, and because of our potential, and they see our spiritual potential, and that there are members of us, quite a few, and it's growing rapidly now, that are
Mhm.
near ascension or already going into ascension, and really good people. And actually, with the what happened with the 2019 jab, the
Yep.
AI, if you're
Yep.
not keeping your vibrations there, you'll get hacked. So it's
Right.
extremely important to live in a energy of forgiveness, kindness, compassion, love, and truth.
Internet of Things all around people. Just as we wrap up here, this is a curious thought. So when I was at RIM BlackBerry, so I started just BlackBerry had just been launched, and and just shortly after that, around 2002, the co-founders of Research Emotion BlackBerry, known as BlackBerry was the product, but the company's RIM. Mike Lazaridis and Doug Freegan, the co-founders who go back to their friendships in Windsor, Ontario, where they grew up together, is how the story goes. I remember they made a contribution for something like $300 million. They were building what's called the Perimeter Institute, and they did, of Theoretical Physics. And this was Mike's baby. And it was in Waterloo, and again, for everybody who doesn't know, Wilfrid Laurier University, where I went for the honors economics program starting there, that at the time in the 90s was considered the Harvard Business School and Economic School of the North in Canada. And University of Waterloo, which is about roughly 3 street blocks away, not massive city blocks like New York, but street blocks away, is was known as the MIT of the North, right? Canada. So for computer science, engineering and mathematics and physics, which is where Mike and Doug went and BlackBerry kind of got started. Where I'm going with this is when they started the Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics, and we've already just you brought up CERN. Mike hired and provided, as well as other contributors, donations for a majority of scientists from CERN and theoretical particle physicists and astrophysicists, et cetera, to be there. And I think they did that. They actually built the CERN type superconductor. And I'm making the circle like this for people who can see, because that CERN, um, Gene would be able to fill you in. He's got far more knowledge than me. He was a submariner, and I just was a little bit of a ground pounder infantry soldier in the Canadian Army, right? Throw a grenade, do what you need, fix bayonet, ugh, knuckle dragger type. But from that standpoint, I believe they built that in Kitchener-Waterloo because they were getting the city on board, which, by the way, used to be called New Berlin before World War II. So they changed the name in 1939. After September 11, 1939, Canada declared war on Germany. It was known as New Berlin, Ontario. Then they changed it to Kitchener, Ontario. But I digress. I'm curious there if they have, and I would imagine so, a portal that also had to get closed down in Kitchener-Waterloo at the Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics, which had a lot of wild stuff going on. They had their own machines they could do experiments in.
Yeah, so there's a lot. I'll have to research that one. I don't know. But
Yeah.
another one I do know of is the Genesis project, which is connected to, it's going to unite all of the AIs, is being developed. So
Yeah.
that's just kind of a,
Wow.
just for people to kind of put that under your hat, and look forward to that one and see what is going on with that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gene, always fascinating speaking with you. I truly, truly, truly appreciate our connection and the fact that you continue to provide service to the world with this remarkable information that you have divine from source. Just as we wrap up here, these next 3 minutes, would you tell the new members of the audience your NDE experience in meeting our almighty creator, and then also where they can find you again? And then we'll wrap it in prayer as we close.
Absolutely. So what occurred is, started with a an attack on me by a Samoan, very huge person. They're like walking pianos. That's how big they are. And
Well said.
in Kapiolani Park in Hawaii. And
Wow.
so I wound up doing a flying scissor throw, which turned out not to be such a good idea on somebody that big, because when he hit the ground, my leg was under him and dislocated my left knee. He flipped over, dislocated my right knee. And so
Oh,
we did ground techniques, rolling around until we're almost to the sidewalk, and I knocked him out and put him head first into a trash can. So, just to let him wake up in a means where I don't have to worry about him getting at me for a while. And my car was right there, and I reset my knees with my car. So the very next day, my student came back from Japan with a ninja sword. He wanted to have lessons in how to use it. So we went up on analysts up into the bamboo forest up there, and I was doing what's called a double pass, where you're in a deep Senkusa Dashi stance. I was in a right Senkusa, and I was shifting to a left, and you're going full speed with the sword down one side and switching the other. So if you don't finish the switch, you'll cut your leg off. You got to have that back leg on the other side become the front leg becomes the back leg, and so you have to shift your stance completely. And so as I was coming down, my right leg was on a hill, and my knee started coming apart again because it couldn't take the torque of that shift being uphill. And so part of my mind said, stop the shift because you'll tear your knee apart. And at the same time, I'm coming down full speed with the sword. So I wound up coming into just the top of my knee, right smack dab on the top of the middle of my capella and kneecap. And so as I did, I ki'd. My chi at that time was so high that, my student, he's used to me being a kind of a practical joker in class. And I looked down, and I was in shorts and a tank top. That was it, barefoot and everything. And so I looked down and I saw, I immediately used my mind to stop any bleeding. And so I could see my right of my kneecap about 1 inch exposed. It was open about 1 inch wide for the entire length of the capella. And I ki'd such that I looked at a sword, and the blade of the sword, the curvature went up where my knee was. There was a notch. And then if you look at it down the length of the sword, it waved to the right side and went back to the center. So it would bent the sword. And so I looked over my shoulder. I said, guess what? He goes, what? I ruined your sword. I bent it with my knee. He's like, yeah. I go, no, I'm serious. He comes, oh, my word. He goes, what are we going to do? And I go, you're going to take what's left of your sword, cut down a piece of bamboo for me to use as a crutch to get down the car, take the lashing off the hilt. There's 2 different leather lashings. And I'll hold it shut, you lash it shut. I'll take my tank top off, lash it to keep it clean, and we'll get down to the car, and I'll go home, clean it up, and tape it up, and put some butterfly bandaging on it and stuff. So I did that, but then it was throbbing like crazy, and so I was watching the closing of the Olympics at that time. This was 1992, and you can get the exact day by that, and it was throbbing, and I had another student that had come back from Korea with a Korean comforter, big, huge blanket. I found when I wrapped it around my knee, the heat made it not hurt so much. So just laying on my shorts on the couch, and my fiance at the time, I was hoping to marry when I got out, she asked me why I came in. Isn't that odd? And I said, the heat helps. It makes it not hurt so bad. She goes, oh, okay. So she went into the kitchen. We had a stacked dryer washer, and she got an armload of clothes out of there. And meaning well, she came standing up, and this couch is low to the floor, dropped the entire load on my leg, and it hit a glancing blow, rotated the comforter and everything, and I felt it rip everything I'd done. So I jumped up, I yelled and jumped up, and she goes, what? I go, I know you meant well, but it's torn open. She goes, I thought you had a bandage. I did, but it's broken it open. And because I had lost my mind control over it, bleeding and everything, blood was shooting out between the bandages that were left onto the carpeting. And I told him, go get your truck and take me to Tripler right now. So he is a mile away. He can't park near the condominium complex. He had to start running off to get his truck. I hopped on one leg into the bathroom. I'm going into shock. I'm throwing up. I got diarrhea. I stand up. It's going so bad I can't stop it. So I just wrap a towel as tight around it as I can, like a tourniquet, and wrap around it as tight as I can and turn it off as much as I can. And it's like I hop out on one leg, and this is a concrete building. And so just a little bit of padding on the floor with the carpeting, under the carpeting, and your carpet pad, and then your carpet. And she said I came out into just near the couch behind it where she had dropped the laundry from, and I suddenly went straight like a tree coming down and went backwards and bounced off the floor 3 times. And she came running over to me, and she said as she immediately kneeled beside me, my eyes completely dilated, 100%. I stopped breathing. She felt my pulse. I had no pulse. So she immediately started doing CPR, looking at the clock. That's how I know exactly the amount of time on the stovetop. And
Right.
Until he came in and said, "I've got the truck ready and parked as close as I can. Let's get him up." And so what for me happened is 1 minute I'm looking up my eyes coming into the living room. The next minute I'm looking down on the Milky Way. Like, what in the heck just happened? And everything everywhere answered me in my own voice from inside me. That's why when they say God is within you, absolutely fact. And I go, it was in my own voice too, which is a little odd. And I said, it said in my voice, everything everywhere. In other words, God, the creator of all things, that is all things. You just died. And I'm like, well, what's happening now? Because by this time, even in just that brief period of exchange, Andromeda was coming in and starting to pass under me, or through me, or whatever. It's hard to understand what it would be. And he said, "You're ascending." Oh, so we went through a thing of what's that, and what that entails, and what I have. I didn't think I rated that, and so and understanding what it was, and then I said, well, I think there's something important I should have done that I didn't do, of all these things you showed me that I haven't, that I missed. And he said, you could do it, but it required me being corporeal. And I said, well, I think it's so important that I have. He said, just like anything else, it's just one thing you did, but you did enough, da da da. But long story short, I decided to come back. He said you could, but I'd have to will my body back to life. And I had been killed when I was 3rd grade, which I didn't even know until years later even.
Wow.
Yeah. My father was very abusive. I was in the car crying, and he used to say, if you don't stop crying, they'll give you something to cry about. He was driving, and he punched me in the side of my temple on my left side, and I had a cerebral hemorrhage, slid down on the floor of the car. He drove from that part of the city across the entire city to where my divorced mother was at Kaiser. So it was about almost an hour drive to get there, even at high speed, running stoplights and everything. And when she came out, just as she came out, he saw me open my eyes on the floor, and they put me back in my body. And later I drove to that area. My sister wanted to see it, and I had first time in my life, I had a panic attack. I had to pull the car off and lay on the road and lay on the sidewalk. And I was like, what in the heck's going on? She goes, you're having a panic attack. I go, and I then suddenly, she said, close your eyes and still your breathing down, and I saw myself flying over the city and over the courthouse. And I'm like, oh, this is where I died. That's what God was talking about before. The angels put me back together. So he said, that knowledge is in your mind, and you'll have to will your body back to life and turn it back on. So I came back, got back in my body, which was bizarre. And that's my death experience for the short story.
Wild. Just wild. God eternal within the body. That's what Greg Braden decoded. God eternal within the body.
Yeah, and while I was gone only 30 minutes, for me it was eons. Talking with God and showing me my trip back, and stars being born in nurseries, and seeing, twin stars being born, and stopping certain times like for that, and hearing everything like a giant hymn to God, and the love. The word love doesn't even describe what you have out there outside the fallen Milky Way galaxy. It is beyond comprehension. And I asked, he said, you're going back to ground zero. And so I asked what the heck that meant, and, told me about way more than I knew about the cabal. And by that 2 years of research I'd done by that time, I was like, so they're going to blow the planet up then? He said, could. Free choice is absolute. That may happen. It's not absolute. But, you're going back and you have a lot of knowledge. You might be of some aid. I said, well, I want to help the world and do my best. And, but I thought, I'm a little guy. I'm just a little nobody. How am I going to help the world, So I started immediately trying to tell people and wake people up. And it was hopeless. It was hopeless until I became Gene Decode. I was like, just, right before that, I was trying to do like teachings in bookstores, New Age bookstores.
Yeah.
And the first one I would do, I'd have 30, 45, 100 people in those, little room in the store. And then the second one, I'd have 10. And the third one, I'd have me and the owner. And the next one, it would be me. I was like, this isn't working. And so I asked God at that time, this was about 8 years ago, this isn't happening. He goes, give it time. It's not yet time.
Nice.
And it just occurred, I had somebody tell me, I should, that at that time Cyril Brain was doing his decodes, and I should contact somebody because I can do stuff with more detail with my abilities. So I said, okay. So I contacted one person. I was told by God to pick 5. I picked one. And I contacted that person, and they said, yeah, let's try one. And then from there, I became Gene Decode. So all due to my death experience and all due to my martial arts. And it's amazing how God works through your life. While you have plans of what you think you're going to do and how you're going to do it, isn't it all what God has you doing?
Certainly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Wild. Thank you for that. Thank you for the share. Thank you for the share. Would you, and remember everybody, genedecode.org. The link is right below this description. Jump on that and get connected. Truly, again, decodes divined from Creator, and take what resonates, leave what doesn't. It is absolutely remarkable. And what's also cool is science has proven what even just 5 and 20 years ago would be considered mysticism. So here we are at a time, Star Trek age and more. Science has proven the mysticism, but this man has really brought forth with his team. So, Gene, if you wouldn't mind closing us in prayer, good sir, it would be wonderful and honored.
I'd be honored. Absolutely.
Thank you.
One God of all creations, we ask thee to guide us and steer us and protect us during this time of transition of the fall of the cabal and the dark evils that have existed for so very long on this planet, and protect us and save us and keep us healthy and whole and holy and in service to you. And we thank you for all you give us on a daily basis, this beautiful earth, the foods, our life, our breath, and everything is all from you. And above and beyond all, we thank you for your only begotten Son, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you. And God bless you all. And thank you, God, for all that you've done in our lives. Teteleste.
Yeah. And God bless you all. And thank you, Gene. God bless you all for tuning in. We'll look forward to seeing you all next time on another show with Gene, but hopefully between now and then, everybody, you're jumping on genedecode.org. Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our blinged Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm,